think of this year's Arnold?
I thought it was good. I mean, I actually gave it to Cedric.
I heard that actually from a few people.
Cedric should have won. I mean, but what was different this year is that they haven't done it in a long time. Is they actually they gave points for posing. And of course, Kai is a great poser.
Right.
I just thought Kai was not at his best. I've seen him better and harder.
In comparison to Olympia title, where would you rate Arnold Classic title now? How would you compare the both?
I think both of them are pretty much, everyone as a bodybuilder, if you're like this bodybuilder, you want to win Mr. Olympia. But winning the Arnold Classic is also a big title to be able to have. And, I'm proud to say I'm the first Arnold Classic winner. It's like being, Larry Scott of the bodybuilding world, winning the first Mr. Olympia, and, winning that show. What Arnold did was he brought prize monies up to make the Olympia bring their prize monies up. Mm-hmm. He brought more awareness by having this huge expo that Olympia didn't have, so that Olympia had to then do a big expo. So it helped the sport. I believe Arnold had helped the sport with this huge fitness festival. From what it was when I competed, and now they're just two different animals.
Is it like a frustrating, obviously you were competing and you were Olympia stage many times.
Yeah.
You came in second,
quite 3 years in a row.
Quite a few times.
Yeah.
And was it frustrating for you to be there so close and knowing that you give like probably 110% every time, but you can't just...
When I competed, just like in business, I put 110% into what I did, and I would compete with the mindset if I didn't win, I was going to die and my whole family would be killed. That's the kind of mind thought I had when that was the thought I had when as a young guy, I was in my 20s. You have to understand, when I competed, I was 21. I was in the Olympia stage at 22. Being second, third, which is uncalled for today.
Yeah.
So I did it very, very young and stayed into bodybuilding into my like 34.
Right.
I'm retired, but so I'm still relatively young. So
right.
And I've seen the transition of the sport.
Absolutely.
Where guys that I competed with now are like even older, because I was in my early 20s. Most of the guys were either late 20s or 30s. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I was frustrated because at the time, I always thought I should have won, or I should have had at least one Olympia under my belt. Mm-hmm. I've done more than enough in bodybuilding, between being one of the best bodybuilders.
Of course.
What's cool is I'm still recognized 30 years later as still a name in the sport, and that's from not only what I accomplished in bodybuilding, but what I accomplished in business.
Was it difficult for you to retire knowing that you didn't win the Olympia? Was it difficult for you to make the decision of retiring and without getting that title? Or were you kind of, obviously you were the top bodybuilder in the world, or one of the top bodybuilders in the world, but was it difficult for you to make that decision of leaving the sport?
Well, I don't know, a lot of people don't realize or don't know that I didn't want to retire, I had to retire. I had an injury, basically herniating a disc in my neck, which caused paralysis into my right side. So I was trying to make a comeback. I also noticed that, I was training really hard. I was known as one of the most intense bodybuilders when it came to training. No one trained harder than me. I trained twice a day. I always had to have 2 training partners because my intensity would burn people out. Well, that type of training put a lot of force onto my joints, onto my, my discs. So my neck had, degenerative discs that basically herniated, causing total paralysis into my right side when I was getting ready for one of the shows, which was called the Night of the Champion, which is now New York Pro. Mm-hmm. So it retired me. So when I was sitting there in bed, I was about 240 pounds, getting ready for a show, competing around 230 for my pro show. I sat in bed there and just watched my body wither away to about 180 pounds. Wow. And while I was there, I was saying, like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to use my body anymore to make money or compete. And that's when I sat there in bed and said, you know what? I've always been an advocate of supplements, and I believe that, my genetics were not at best, but I was able to become the best through taking proper supplementation. So that's what got me with the vision of starting Gaspari Nutrition. So in bed, while I was like crippled, I started writing down notes of what I wanted to do, manufacturers to talk to, what kind of products I wanted to come out with, because I was also personal training at the time. So laying in bed, that was back in 1996, 97, I developed Gaspari Nutrition.
I definitely will get into the business side because Gaspari, I knew about Gaspari brand before I even with the Generation Iron, before we kind of was like really into the culture about it.
I think I've opened the door to many bodybuilders. As you can see, you got a Kai brand, you got a Phil Heath brand, you got all these brands. Thing is, I knew that my brand was going to be built not on, it was because of Rich Gaspari, but my brand is built on the brand. It just so happened that it's owned by the bodybuilder.
Right.
A lot of people misconceive and say, hey, look at me, I'm this guy, buy my brand. No, here's my brand. Why do you buy my brand? Because it's the best. It's got efficacious doses of ingredients. My products work. We're ahead of the curve when it comes to ingredients that are not known by anybody. That's when I went into the sports nutrition realm, it was different. I took it all into that the way I did into bodybuilding.
So how do you feel about, obviously, years later where now it's so oversaturated, right? I mean, everybody's opening a supplement company. It seems like every week is like another supplement company on the market, right? And there's obviously a lot of competition. So how do you, is it more difficult for you?
It becomes a lot more difficult. Gaspari had its difficulties in the industry, price integrity, what's happening is the economy dropped. So what had to happen is prices had to drop on products. Because the economy dropped, a lot of people that knew the supplement industry was this huge market that you could make tons of money, and wow, Rich Gaspari is a millionaire, like from being, selling products, boom, everybody went into it. You're right, it became a saturated market. But what happened is that these people also started looking at products just based off price, because they want to sell to a customer. So when you base products off price, what happens? Product integrity starts to go down. Product quality starts to go down, because what you're basing your product now is just, we need to sell it at this price point to get it to the market. I still don't believe in that. I believe in quality, and it's affected Gaspari, but I think it's actually changed now, and now the product is reviving and starting to grow again.
Now, a couple of years ago, I heard alarming news. I was very surprised by it. I heard that Gaspari Nutrition was either going into bankruptcy or something was happening. It was just shocking, because I was like, wow. I was very upset, actually. I'm like, this is the main staple company, and something's happening to it. What actually happened?
Well, like anything, we went through some trials and tribulations with the brand. We're still, like I said, a very known brand. And when you talk about bankruptcy, we actually see someone like Donald Trump who's went bankrupt 4 times, with companies. Right. Bankruptcy is a business, move a lot of times to, clean up debt, to then start over again. Gaspari went through some hard times, certain things that happened between my personal life, and divorce, to lawsuits, changing of the industry. Things like this had caused Gaspari to lose, sales. We were a big monster that, when you become so big, you need a certain amount of sales just to keep yourself alive. So little more agile companies that you said can get in there and start chipping away at your sales, because you're becoming too cumbersome and too big. So Gaspari went through that period that now is past, and what we're doing now. So now Gaspari now has become alive again, growing again.
What do you think happened to the sport over the last decade? How do you look at it?
Well, I hate to be like one of these old school guys to say, I don't like what's happening to the sport, but
most of them do say that.
And I'm going to be one of those advocates to say I don't like what happened to the sport. When I see top pros not able to do a vacuum pose, where when we were growing in bodybuilding and we were on stage, it was about keeping your waist small, putting on size, but always trying to keep your waist as small as possible. So I had the ability to be 230, 240, to be on stage. But when that happened, I got thicker in obliques, and I was scored, less on it. So in my era of bodybuilding, the judges scored you lower if you didn't have that ability to do a vacuum, you didn't have the ability to keep your waist small. So the biggest I could be is 220, 225, and that was really big. Lee Haney was 246, 250, that was really big for him. Now bodybuilders at Lee Haney's height, 6 foot, are competing at 300. Guys at 5'9" are competing at 250, 260. But when you look at their physiques, their waists are a lot thicker. They can't keep their gut in. They can't do a vacuum. If you ask them to do one, they can't do one. So the aesthetics have changed. They are massive. They look, like a cartoon. but is that really, what the public accepts as something that you want to look like? If you're going onto a beach, Arnold would say, like, what do you want to look at when you're walking on the beach and you see this, Hulk? Guys are going to say, well, I don't want to look like that. They want to look like this guy who has an aesthetic physique, nice small waist, ripped up. And that was my era of bodybuilding. So yeah, I think it's changed, but I think from last year when Arnold made comments about, a different look, I think that's helped the sport because I'm seeing that change happen. We talked about Cedric and, Kai and the Arnold. Cedric would have won, he was ahead in points, but because of posing, Kai won. Now, I believe we still need a long way to go when it comes to posing because I still believe a lot of pros, and I hate to say this, suck. They pose horribly. When I posed, I wasn't known as the best poser, but my routine was way better than today's pros. Going on stage and going from one end to the other, hitting shots and waving people to have you clap for them, that's crap. You should be out there, showing your body, showing your poses to the utmost best ability, hiding your weaknesses. And I think bodybuilders don't understand that. And, because I spent hours in the gym posing, where today's bodybuilders, they spent a month out and maybe they spent 20, 30 minutes just hitting some shots. And so that's the difference. So yeah, I'm a little bit more old school, and I'm glad to see there's a segmented classic that's coming about, which we'll wait and see what that shows and what kind of bodybuilders. So far you see some really good physique guys that have that ability to, go into the classic bodybuilding. So I think there's going to be two types of bodybuilding that we'll see what the public is really going to want to look like.
Tune into Generation Iron Podcast with Kai Green every Wednesday.
My goal always was to win the universe titles. That was, first the junior came out and I won that, and then I won the opens and gained my pro card, and then the last goal of competing was to get my pro Mr. Universe because they just introduced that division and it's the best of the best in all the weight categories, and I wanted to take the top title there.